Hi there, welcome back to the channel. My name's Dave Smith. I'm a Gutenberg core team member and full-time WordPress contributor. And I'm going to talk to you today about the navigation block. And specifically, I'd like to show you how to use a different menu on mobile screens than you do on desktop screens. And I use those terms meaning a larger screen size and a smaller screen size. So this is not something you can do currently with a navigation block, but it's always been something that people did with WordPress. And the reason they did that is excellently highlighted by this issue, which Jamie Marsland raised, and he also commented on it. And he said, imagine if you had a larger site like an e-commerce site, and those sites have mega menus as their main menu. And those menus aren't at all well suited to a mobile layout. If you just take the same items and stack them vertically, it's just too much. So therefore you want to show a different mobile menu. In classic versions of WordPress, what you would do is you'd register two different menus and you'd use CSS to show and hide them. You can't do that by default using the editor UI. So today I'm going to show you a way that I found out to work around this so you can achieve the same thing. So let's switch over to the editor, and I've created this really simple menu, and I'm going to add some sub-menus here to sort of approximate a more complex mega menu, if you will. Let's make a tertiary level here. This is going to be really rough and quick. Obviously, you can imagine a much more complicated menu than this might exist. I'm going to save this menu out. That's brilliant. Now, if we look at the block settings for the navigation block, let's make sure we're actually selecting that navigation block. We can see that it is set to this mobile overlay menu mode. And what that means is when the screen size is small enough, the menu will collapse down to sort of what you might call a hamburger menu. And let's have a look at that on the front of the site now. I'm using DevTools to approximate a mobile device. Here's desktop. And here's mobile, and you see that navigation is collapsed down. I can expand it, and here it is. But you can see already, you can start to see how this doesn't really, isn't going to really scale very well. I've only got one level of nesting under about, and already it looks a bit unwieldy. Imagine if I had several other levels like products or portfolio or something like that, and then I started nesting items underneath there, it would soon become unwieldy. And that's really the use case that Jamie has highlighted in his issue, and that's the one we're going to address today. So let's go back to desktop, and then let's switch back to the editor. And what we're going to do first is we're going to go down to, we're going to select the navigation block, make sure we're on that, and then we're going to go down to this advanced section, and we're going to rename this as, let's say, desktop navigation. Okay, let's save that, and no, before we save it, actually, let's add a new CSS class. So we've got additional CSS classes here, and I'm going to call mine nav-primary -- desktop. And then I'm going to hit save and make sure that menu's saved. Right, so we've got our desktop menu, and the next thing we need to do is actually make sure that it only shows, it always shows, rather, it's not on this mobile anymore. So we're going to these three options for overlay menu. It's always, which always makes it a hamburger menu, mobile, which will use media queries to switch between the two versions depending on screen size, and off, which will force it to always be in this mode without ever turning into a hamburger menu. And that's what we want. So again, we're going to click save that, that's great. Right, so now we'll collapse up this navigation, and what we're going to do is actually insert another navigation after it. So I'm going to right click here in the list view and click insert after to make sure it's right afterwards. Then I'm going to go up to here, I'm going to type /nav to get a navigation block, and I'm going to start empty, and in this navigation block I'm going to make it really simple. I'm going to say home. Ooh, I'm not going to say home, I'm going to use sample page, and I'm going to rename it to home. Obviously you do this much better than I'm doing now. About, I'm going to just leave it as home, about, and contact again. Whoops. How about we call this mobile home, just to differentiate it and make it a bit easier to see. Right, so I've got two navigation blocks now, and you can see over here, I've got one, this is the primary navigation for desktop, and this is for mobile. So I need to note this one is a mobile desktop, so mobile menu. So I'm going to scroll down again, having selected the navigation block, I'm going to go to advanced, I'm going to rename it to mobile navigation, and I'm going to go down to the CSS classes section and add nav-primary mobile. And then I'm going to scroll back up, and this time I'm going to set it to always be a hamburger menu, like so. As you can see, it's collapsed down. It will always be that size no matter what the screen size. I'm going to save that out, and that's great. And now let's have a look at the front of the site. We reload. Now we've got the two menus showing. We've got one here, which is our desktop version, and we've got one here, which is our mobile version. So now what we need to do is have a way to show and hide these two menus based on screen size. And this is the bit we can't do at the moment from the editor, but what we can do is add our own custom CSS. So here I'm using the 2022 theme, and as you can see in my editor here, I've got 2022, and I've scrolled down, I found the style.css file, and all I've done is scroll right down to the bottom, and I've added this new section called custom rules, and that's a comment. And all I'm going to do is paste in some rules I had made up earlier, and I'll uncomment these and we'll see what they do. So here, let me go over the CSS selectors first. So this is a class selector for CSS, and what we're doing is we're saying find an element with the class of wp-block-navigation, which has also got the class nav-primary mobile, and do this display none on it. And the same here, we're doing the same thing again, but this time we're targeting the desktop navigation. So mobile version, desktop version. And what we need to do is use these, what are these called? These are called media queries. And what they allow you to do is choose when a selector, a CSS selector, is applied to the page based on something about the media of the page. In this case, it's the width of the viewport, or we can think of that as equivalent to the screen size. And here, this rule says, when the screen reaches a minimum width of 782 pixels, then display none on the mobile navigation. So basically, you'll see the mobile navigation until the viewport reaches 782 pixels, and then it's going to be displayed none and hidden. Similarly, on this one, which is targeting desktop, I'm going to say once the screen reaches a max width of 783, so once it's below 783 pixels, I want you to hide the desktop navigation. So if we apply these rules now, we can save that, and then we can switch back to Chrome and we can reload the front of the site. And on large screens now we only see the desktop navigation, and on smaller screens we only see the mobile navigation, which is what we want. And if we have a quick inspect here, I can go right click, inspect, and I can pull these dev tools open a little bit more like this. And if we look for the navigation block, you can see, just about see here, nav primary desktop. That's the menu we were looking at before, and that's the one we're targeting for desktop. And then below it is the one that's the nav primary mobile, and you can see that selector there. So to recap, what we've done, and I will just refresh the editor to make sure that's up to date as well. What we've done is we've created two navigation blocks, and they are visible here and here. And I'll switch myself over to the other side so you can see better. You can see one over here and one there. This is the mobile version. This is the desktop version. And all we've done, if you recall from a moment ago, all we've done is we've set the display preferences accordingly, and we've also added some custom CSS classes that have allowed us in CSS to target those different menus at different screen sizes using these media queries here. And I'm going to drop these media queries into the comments or the description of this video so you can copy and paste them for your own use. Bear in mind that you may need to adjust the screen width depending on the size of your screen or the size of your navigation, and that is something that you're going to have to tailor. You're going to have to work that out yourself. But that will work if you change those values. But note that one is 1 pixel more than the other. If you have them exactly the same, then there will be a point where there are no menus shown. So if I put it at that, it would be no menu would ever be shown at 782 pixels. So you need to put one pixel above the other, so 782 and 783. So just make sure you take a note of that if you start adjusting these. Of course, in the future, we would hope to be able to address this issue, which is issue number 38201. And if we can, then hopefully you'll be able to do this sort of thing, but from the Gutenberg interface. So hopefully you'll be able to, it won't be a nav block specific thing. Presumably you'll be able to say at this media query, show this block or show that block, but that's for future exploration. I really hope this video was helpful and helped some of you to be able to create this mobile menu that's specifically tailored for mobile screens. If it did, I'd really appreciate if you would like or even consider subscribing. It really helps to have comments as well. So if you liked the video and you found it helpful, let me know in the comments. Or if you've got any questions or something that didn't work, again, let me know in those comments down there and I'll be more than happy to help. Also check out my other videos on the navigation block, including one where I give a complete technical overview of how the block works and where its data is saved, which is really useful. Okay, thanks very much and I'll see you next time. Bye.